to the Creativity Conference's official podcast. My name is Aidan Rhode, and in this podcast, I'll be discussing all aspects of creativity with some world-class creative minds who we are lucky enough to have joining us as speakers for the conference. Today, I am joined by award-winning North Carolina-based singer-songwriter Jonathan Byrd, who delivered a wonderful presentation and panel for us back in the conference that we had online in August. Jonathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm actually just getting over COVID.
Oh, really?
I was down pretty hard. And I got the booster after I'd been exposed, and my doctor said I probably just got a double whammy. Like my body really freaked out. And I lost my voice for a few days, which was a little scary as a singer.
Yeah.
But I'm on the I'm less Tom Waits, more Tom Jones.
Yeah.
Now aiming for Tom Petty. If I take the Tom scale, I just came up with that. Tom scale.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you've had the vaccines beforehand, and you'll hopefully get a fairly light dose of it. But you're pulling through.
Yeah, I live with my mother and my son, and my mother I was really worried about is apparently completely impervious. So that's good. But my son got a little sick. But I'm on the mend. And I didn't really have a lot of shows or live events because I kind of knew that this winter was going to be like this. It happened sooner than I thought it would, but I was pretty sure that there'd be another wave of something and a bunch of shows would get canceled. So I didn't really book much. But I have been very creative, and I've been working on creating content and on educating and just coming up with new things.
Amazing. Well, tell me about some of the current projects that you're working on that you are, excited to get out of the bed in the morning and work on.
Well, there's one project that is many projects, and it's very all-consuming. So it's really the only thing that I'm doing right now, and the whole company is called Song Miners. So I was thinking about mining. I guess it started because I think about investing. When I was about 28, I decided to become an artist for a living, and that it took me also saying, okay, I have to get serious about knowing about business and what my financial future looks like and how to manipulate that. So I got interested in investing. Cryptocurrency is very volatile, but I think I was thinking about cryptocurrency and just learning about it, and thinking about the word mining. And I think about words a lot. I think there's whole histories and cultures and even a little bit of the future in every word. And as a songwriter, I think about every word. I think they're valuable. So I was thinking about the word mining and what it means. And there's other meanings that aren't necessarily literally digging things out of the ground, like data mining, or if someone is greedy and manipulative, you call them a gold digger. There's these mining metaphors that we use. And I was thinking about mining and what that means, what that idea means. And what do? I'm a songwriter. I'm a song miner. And like a miner, I'm not necessarily going to keep I'm probably not going to keep the thing that I'm going after, the physical thing. I want to trade it for its value as soon as I possibly can. And that's what my business has been. I find songs and I refine them and polish them, and all the metaphors can keep going on, and then I bring them to market for their value. And I was thinking about that and what all the iterations of that could be. Like miners would work in a team. Of course, they would enjoy working with people who are good at what they do and enjoy doing the same things. And songwriters do that. I learned about co-writing very early. After I got serious about songwriting, I learned about co-writing, and I went to Nashville where they do it a lot. And I might have an idea, like, I don't know, even a single word like crazy. I'd be like, hey, crazy, what do you think about that? And somebody might say, oh, well, what if it'd be crazy if you love somebody, even though you knew they were going to break your heart. There's the lyric. We have to write about that. And so, people work in teams to create songs. And so I'm trying to develop many iterations of doing this. I want to educate. I want to inspire. I want to help people generate their own songs. I want to find undiscovered songs. There are people out there who they've thought about songs. They want to write songs. They have songs in them, but they don't know how to start. And I want to start those people. There are lots of people like me during the pandemic who are songwriters, but we all had to get so creative in so many different ways during the pandemic that at the end of the night, we wanted to watch whales on Netflix. We don't want, we don't want to have to make anything else. And so we had, you could call it writer's block, but it was like there was no time to write. And so all those people, a lot of my friends and peers are just getting back into the frame of mind where they're saying, wow, I forgot kind of who I am. I really want to make songs again. And I want to inspire and motivate and help those people and write with them and generate these songs and dig out song ideas and refine them and polish them and bring them to market, whatever market means, whatever value means to you. And it feels like I have refined my purpose in this way. That playing shows and selling albums, that worked for a long time, but that's not working right now. And maybe that's not even the best way to use my time and to achieve my purpose. And by purpose, I mean, like, you can think about God's will or destiny. Any way you want to define how you find purpose is fine. But I have found the purpose, and I'm constantly thinking about my purpose and think that purpose precedes happiness for me. So it's important to me. And I feel like I'm fulfilling that purpose by educating, inspiring, motivating, collaborating. So I built Song Miners, which does all those things. I create content, I create music that I release, I create videos that I release, I create education, I do workshops, I'm creating downloadable songwriting courses. I put free songwriting education on the internet. So every week I do a songwriting short, which is a minute, like literally 59 and a half seconds of some idea that relates to how to write songs. Like, check out this great bridge. Isn't this interesting how this bridge works? Or the rule of three. Here's how to think about the rule of three. Hopefully things that will inspire and motivate people and get them thinking about songs. And I always ask a question in that 59 seconds. I always say, what are some other songs you can think of that do this? Or what's the time that you use this? And please put it in the comments and start a conversation about this idea. So all of those things are generating songs. People are digging songs out of their closets. People are creating songs whole cloth. It's incredible. I do this weekend, and I call it Song Miners, and it's a weekend where people meet the way we're meeting right now, virtually, on Zoom. We use Zoom. And I basically force them to write a song. I mean, I teach them kind of how songs work, and I keep them motivated. But I make them write a song before the weekend is over. And people who have never written a song do this course. People who don't even play an instrument have done this course. Everybody writes a song. And so far, nobody has ever said, I don't like what I wrote. Ever. Which seems miraculous to me.
Yeah.
It seems like I found something pretty good. So I really want to keep doing that and releasing music and creating content, and people who follow me on Patreon get access to even more content. So those are people who are most interested. So I show them more of my process than maybe I would show to just any passerby on YouTube. And those people are helping me make it possible to create these, to spend time making videos that I put out there for free and things like that. And people who buy the course and do the course with me, they also make it possible for me to create more free education.
Yeah, you've been quite an early adopter of sort of online streaming and utilizing things like Patreon as sort of an additional outlet for your music and an additional sort of revenue stream, even well before the pandemic. I imagine this put you in relatively good stead when the lockdown first hit, because you had everything set up and you could just press go.
I was already live streaming with my band. Yeah, I already set up these songwriting courses. I had been doing them for years. And of course, within a couple of weeks of the pandemic shutting everything down, Grandma knew how to use Zoom. I no longer had to teach people how to use Zoom. So that took 15 or 30 minutes off the front end of the of the weekend when I used to teach people where the mute button was.
Yeah. So did you find that the pandemic overall so far has sort of enabled you creatively or stifled you in some ways?
It has done both.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I suffered a real clinical depression for the first time in my life. And I could feel it. I could feel that something was not right. I'm a very optimistic, hopeful person. And I was in a dark room and there was no way out. So I called a therapist and a psychiatrist. And I took medicine for a couple of months and I got out of it. And I realized that part of that was that what I was saying before about not being creative, I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. And I think there was part of my soul that was feeling shut down for that. So that was after the medicine kind of got me out of the black hole, and then I could see to recreate myself in a better way.
Yeah, and I think part of a lot of people's sort of general well-being is their environment around them, and be it the natural environment, going outside during lockdown, or even just sort of the room that you're in currently. How important is your environment when it comes to creating something new, be it nature or your sort of studio?
In my studio, I just have to make it easy.
Yeah.
So we had some problems when we first started today doing this podcast, but usually I can flip like 3 to 5 switches depending on what I want to do, and within a few minutes, I'm doing this, or I'm making a video, or I'm recording a song. It's all within, I would say, about 8 feet of me right now. Every switch and everything that I need is very close, and that helps me to not put it off, to not procrastinate, or sometimes you spend an hour figuring out how to do something, and then you're like, oh, now I need to take a break before I can do it. And I don't run into that. As far as my environment in general, yeah, that's part of it, right? It's like the stress is okay as long as you have recovery time for the stress. It can help you to grow and to learn and to become stronger. It's like working out, but having lots and lots of stress and having no recovery time and having no outdoor time and seeing other people time, I think piled up on me.
Yeah, and in the middle of all of this, in August, was the Creativity Conference online, and yet another Zoom commitment. As I mentioned in the beginning, you chaired the music panel and you did your own 2 sessions. How did you find the conference overall, and did you manage to attend any other sessions?
It was fun. I was so busy creating Song Miners, I didn't get to attend hardly anything. I checked in on a few things here and there, but I really couldn't focus on it. I did focus on my part of it. I knew I needed to speak and I needed to be great, and so I made sure that I could do that. I gave myself enough time to write and to think about what I was going to say, and to be able to hopefully, again, motivate, inspire, educate, generate questions. I love when people ask questions. That's the best. I think every time you ask a question, you add a day onto your life.
Yeah. No, your talks were really, really good, and some of the most well attended sessions at the conference. So I think they made a big impact. And
wow.
I've had a few of your other panelists from the music panel on previous podcast episodes, Louisa Winters, I think, and John Thomas Dodson. And one topic I've discussed with all of the musicians I've had on so far is about formal academic music training, and whether studying music formally potentially quashes creativity to a degree by sort of implementing rules and boundaries that you might not otherwise imbue with yourself. What is your take on that?
That's really interesting. I don't know. I think whatever way you get there is okay. I think it can, if you think that there's a way that you should do things, you might want to examine that. I
Hmm.
think if you have a preconception about what works until you try it. So I do know people who've been through school who then got out of school, or they worked in an orchestra, and then they finally realized it's like, this is not what I want to do. I want to be more creative than this. But for some people, they really enjoy that, and they enjoy the discipline of it, and fulfilling a very distinct role. Um, so again, purpose. What's your purpose? Do you want to be a fantastic cellist in an ensemble, um, or do you want to be a songwriter? Or do you want to be a producer? Um, or do you want to be a publisher? We need publishers too. We need all those things. And some of them offer formal training. I mean, what's happening now is that I know a lot of people who went to music school, and they went to sort of modern music schools where they teach you how to produce and record digitally, and they teach you about publishing and royalties and all those things. They're very modern, but they still have a hard time keeping up with the technology that's available, and the democratization of information. Like, they're not teaching um, guitar players about TikTok, but I think you might want to learn about TikTok if you're a guitar player, or Instagram, or some way to put yourself out there, um, especially now, is important. And there isn't really any formal training for that. You just have to try these things, and see how they work for you. I was actually watching Rhett Shull is a YouTuber and a great guitar player who plays guitar for a living in Atlanta. And he was talking about the 5 things that he didn't learn in music school. And, YouTube loves a list, 5 things.
Hmm.
And one of those things, though, was it didn't teach me about social media. It didn't teach me that this is how people know who you are. Or if they hear about you, they're going to go and want to listen to you and see you. This is your resume. And I think anybody in any kind of music right now would need to do that. So formal training, I've never had any formal training, but sometimes I formally train myself. Like right now I'm practicing drum rudiments.
Hmm.
Um, and there are 40 really essential drum rudiments, and I'm going through them very slowly, and I'm very bad at it. I think it's good to have something that you're bad at in your life at all times. I think it's healthy. So that's my thing right now. And it's very formal. I'm not able to be creative as a drummer right now. I don't have the ability.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess it takes a certain level of going by the textbook before you are at a stage where you can start embellishing and
Mm-hmm.
getting your own sort of grooves created. So
Yeah.
that's a good point. And
And
you,
I think Bach, if you trace the classical tradition, like the most formal thing you can think of, back to really the first person that people talk about as a truly like a modern classical composer, that would be Bach. And Bach was a fantastic improviser by all accounts. He was incredibly creative, um, and what's the word? Like he explored a
yeah,
lot. And then Beethoven just definitely stepped outside. He'd mess with people. So even the most formal things, I think there's a very heavy creative aspect to those things, depending on the person
yeah.
and their purpose.
And you mentioned a minute ago that about sort of purpose. You've performed with your band, the Pickup Cowboys, for several years, but have recently decided to change purpose and move into more of sort of a solo direction of things.
Mm-hmm.
We've already explored some of what you've been doing, but how has that shift impacted your creativity?
Oh, it's freed me up greatly. And in fact, part of the reason for that decision was I was having a hard time being creative. The,
Right.
the band wasn't learning my new material at a rate that I needed them to. We weren't able to record at the pace that I wanted. We weren't able to generate content um, in the way that I wanted to. It was like standing at the top of the shaft and talking about mining. It's not the same as mining. And so I really needed it creatively to just say, like, because I felt obligated. I have this band. I feel obligated to work with them. Um, and especially during the pandemic, I really set it up so that we could all make a living together, and that was important for most of that time. So I had to say at some point, I'm going to let this go, and I need y'all to be prepared for this. So it's an ordeal, and I really had to come to terms with it. Is this going to be better or worse for me? But creativity is one of the things that pushed me to decide I need to be alone and be creative in my sandbox.
Interesting. In a way, it reminds me of the phrase "kill your darlings," which is a phrase that you use quite a lot. Can you, for those who are unfamiliar with the phrase, can you sort of elucidate what "kill your darlings" means to you?
Right. Well, another way to say it would be I heard that Gillian Welch said this. I heard it secondhand. I don't know whether she said it, but I'd like to think she did. She's very bright. She said, when you're having a problem with a song, sometimes you can just find your favorite part of the song and remove it, and then play and sing the song without your favorite part in it. And I think that's a great idea. Sometimes it's just a clever rhyme that I'm attached to because, hey, look how clever I am. And usually it is something very clever, and I want to show the world how clever I am. And by removing it, I realize that I haven't served the song. So killing your darlings, it means you have to be sort of ruthless. I mean, even if after I think I've finished a song or I'm co-writing a song with somebody and they say, "Wow, it feels finished to me," I'm like, yeah, okay, just give me a minute. and then I have that version of it. It already exists. I'm not going to destroy it. It's there. So now I'm going to take a copy of it and rip it to shreds. I'm going to question everything about it. I'm going to take it from first person and put it in third person, take it from third person, put it in second person. I'm going to put it in a different key and a different time signature. I just throw everything at it. And if I can't beat it, then great. But usually I find something. And in fact, I've already recorded an entire song. I just realized right before I got on this podcast with you, I recorded a song. I just sent it off to mastering yesterday. It's ready to be released as a single in just a few weeks. And I realized there was one word that was just unforgivably wrong because it actually references another song that people are very familiar with, but it references it, and there's one word that's wrong about the way that it references it. And I've had it for months. I mean, I've been working on it since October with another writer who also didn't realize that we have misquoted this very famous song by one word. So I have to fix that one word. And I'm just glad that I haven't started making the video yet.
Right. And that leads on to the question of, how do you know when a song is finished? How do you know when to stop?
I don't. I don't know when to stop. I guess when to stop is when I need to make money from this thing and stop holding on to it.
Right.
Maybe sometimes I feel like a professional is just willing to sell their unfinished work. They're just desperate enough. I don't know. Also, I feel things when I feel things in my body, like when I shed a tear over a song that I've written, or I laugh, or I put it on and I'm grooving and I'm feeling good about it and I feel things. Those are great clues that something is done, or even part of a song is done. Sometimes I'll be singing a rough draft of something and a line just hits me so hard. And I literally draw a circle around that. And it's like, that's my police tape. Do not enter this area. Can I make everything as cool as that? Can I make the whole song make me feel that way? So I think trusting your body and feeling things and trusting that your feelings mean something is important to me for knowing that I'm done. I don't think I can always intellectually figure out that I'm done.
Does that apply to your photography as well? Because I don't know if people are aware of this, but under your guise of Magic Flower Cowboy, you're also a photographer. And so there's this whole other aspect to your creative work and your creative output. And, you quite heavily Photoshop quite a few of them to make you appear like you're floating, or that you're duplicated in two places at once. How do you know when one of those is finished, and how do you get the inspiration for those?
I think it's the same. I think I have an idea for what I want. Generally, I go into a picture. I guess not always. Sometimes I just take my camera along and see what happens. But often when I'm creating something for social media or an album cover or some sort of purposeful art, I do have an idea of what I want out of it. And I can see it and I can feel it too. That's another feeling thing, that when it's right, I can feel it. And when it's not right, I can feel it. Oh, I don't want to, like, I would be a little embarrassed to put this out to the world. Although the text is right, like things are right about it, but it doesn't feel right. Those feelings are important. And sometimes it comes to me, sometimes I create a whole concept and it never feels right. And then I suddenly realize it wasn't the right concept to begin with. I don't know. I had a whole idea for the very first Song Miners video that I made. So I make a documentary video. I record myself while I'm writing, and I eventually make a 20 to 25-minute little mini documentary about me, like of me writing the song, all the crucial moments that happen where I'm like, aha, it's this word. All those get edited into a video. And then I release a single. So the very first single was called I Should Have Died. And just a couple of days, I was working on the concept for a while, and then a couple of days before I was going to put it all together to be released, I realized that was not the idea at all. The idea is to be very deeply raw and honest. And my legs are like a mess. My legs are like, they're so scarred. I've broken legs, burned. I mean, you name it. My legs have just gotten the worst in this life. And so I just went out to the garage and I set up this whole scene with my clothes on the floor, and you can see me from about mid thighs down. And you can see all these scars on my legs. And that's all it is. It's just a picture of that. And that's the cover. I had this other very clever concept, but it didn't feel right. And then I did that. And within, I think, 4 or 5 shots, shooting myself on a timer on a camera, I had it. I barely processed it. That was the cover. And it felt right.
Well, yeah, sometimes, again, kill your darlings. Just try to start completely over from scratch.
Yeah.
It applies to so much. Of all the projects that you've worked on, are there any in particular that are sort of lesser known about? They've fallen by the wayside, they're underappreciated perhaps, that you have a particular soft spot for and you're particularly proud of and that you wish more people knew about?
I'm actually taking action right now on something like that. So I met a Danish group in Memphis, Tennessee, and they were called the Sentimentals. And the Sentimentals are a 3-piece: electric guitar player, bass player, drummer. And they've come over from Denmark. They look for American songwriters, and they book tours for them in Denmark, and they act as the backing band and the booking agents and everything for the tour. So they invited me to do one of these things. And I went over and we had a great time, and we planned to do another one. And we thought, well, we need something to help promote us. We need something where people can see what we do. And eventually we decided just to make a whole album. It was going to be almost as easy to get together and just make a whole album as it would to record a single song or make a single video. So we wrote an original album and made it. And that was fun. So we did it again. But the second time we wanted to just try something different or beat the concept. So this Danish group, MC Hansen, Nikolai Wolf, Jakob Chano, the Sentimentals, they found a chamber orchestra that is a working chamber orchestra with their own concert hall in Denmark. And we recorded live with them. So we had an arranger arrange the music for them. We recorded live with them in their own concert hall, and we created a whole record called Timeless. And it's all about love, heartbreak, all varieties of love and tenses of love. And then we weren't working together for a while, so we didn't make a plan to release it. And then the pandemic came along. It's just been sitting there, this incredible record. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I think we were holding out to put out a record, but nobody buys records. Like what's a CD? What is that? Who even does that anymore? So we finally decided, let's just put it out however we can. We just want people to hear it. Like, we've mined, again, his metaphor, we've mined this beautiful thing. It's not doing us any good sitting in our glass cabinet. Let's find people who value this. So I just prepared it for a Valentine's Day release. And it's beautiful. I can't wait for people to hear it. And we also agreed. So we did a live show in Norderstedt, Germany, that was filmed impeccably, recorded impeccably. We played the whole record, and we arranged a few more songs and did that with the chamber orchestra. So we have a live album and a live concert that we haven't put out to the world yet either. There's all this material that's sitting there, that's been sitting there, that's some of the best stuff I've ever made. And we're getting
I can't wait to hear it.
I have another record that I recorded in the Yukon in 2013. It's called Old Crow. It's got songs on it that aren't anywhere else. Was a completely unique album. I recorded the 13 songs in a day, sitting in front of a microphone like I am now, in a few hours. I had these 13 oddball songs that hadn't ended up on any other record. I recorded them. I left, and the guy who owned the studio, Bob Hamilton, called a bass player and got a bass player to play some things on them. And he played steel, and he produced this thing and then sent it to me. And I was like, wow, this is great. This is an album. It's done. But I never found a place for it to go. And then I started working with the Pickup Cowboys, and they weren't on it at all. So it didn't make sense to release a record of people I wasn't working with. Again, it's sitting on a hard drive. I'm going to put it out this year.
And what are some activities outside of your songwriting and your photography that keep you creatively fulfilled and motivated?
I've been painting.
Oh, really?
And I'm very slow, and I'm terrible. I'm just terrible. But it's good. It's good to be bad at things. It's good to enjoy being bad at things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm painting in oils, so I just had to make it that much more difficult on myself. They take forever to dry, and you can't paint over them, and So I've been painting. It's been good. And like I said, I've been drumming and practicing rudiments as well. And I'm definitely not going to share that with the world.
Right.
But creative exploits. Although I did play drums on my next single. I played everything on the next single: bass, guitar, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, drums. Played the whole track.
Well, every little thing is just another string to the bow. So that's good to know. Good to know. Well,
I'm always creating. I have a very creative life, and even my business, I feel like when I realized I had to take control of business in order to create a business, I had to understand the idea of business. I was like, I can just create whatever kind of business. I can be whatever kind of business person I want to be, and I'm a creative person, so I'm just going to be a creative business person. And then I realized, of course, business people are creative too.
Yeah,
they create new ideas. And so I just live. I feel like my whole life is a creative venture. And but once you create the idea, then there's more rote things to do, to realize that. But the whole process in the end, I think, is creative.
Absolutely. And well, we have one more question before we're out of time. And I ask it to every single person at the end of every episode. And very open-ended, very broad, easy to ask, maybe difficult to answer, concisely at least. But it is simply, as a creative, what does creativity mean to you?
Well, you should have started with that.
I know.
This is going to take a while. I mean, the whole universe is a creative enterprise. How could you be here and not be creative? You're going to create one way or the other. You might as well think about what it is that you're creating and create in a positive direction. So that is an enormous question. I think coming to terms with creativity is part of the human condition. And maybe less so in the modern times, which might be really the kind of the core of the modern problem. and economies of scale and everything that falls after Adam Smith. Um, like we've made ourselves less creative in order to produce some value to get by in the world. But I think that's going to change. I think people were more creative, lived more creative lives a couple of 100 years ago, and I think we're just going to kind of get back there. And that's already happening. That the sort of the metaverse and the Great Resignation. I don't know if that's a term in the rest of the world, but in America, that's what they refer to. Actually, I've heard the BBC use it to describe what's happened in America. A lot of people have left their jobs. They're working from home, or they're just valuing spending more time with their family more than they valued work, or the big quit. Some people call it the big quit, the Great Resignation. Cryptocurrency, currency that's not tied to a government or even a bank in the way that we think of them. I think all of those things are enabling more creative lives. Even people who work for corporations are getting more creative time, work from home time. Their roles are becoming more creative. So I think the world is headed in a more creative direction, back into a more creative direction, and I think that's healthy.
I agree. And with that is all the time we have. So thank you so much for your time, Jonathan.
Thank you,
It's
Aidan.
been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I am very much looking forward to Iceland in August, where you will be speaking and performing at our music night, hopefully. And
I won't have any distractions the way I did when we were doing it on Zoom. I was working on different things, and I just won't be able to do that. I'll have to be there, and that is also healthy and good. I'll be able to take in more and really be a part of it. I'm looking forward. I'm excited about really, really being in the middle of it.
It's going to be amazing. Well, I can't wait to do that and see you there. And I wish you all the best for the time being in between. Thanks again for joining me.
All right. Take care.